When you think of the Amazon rainforest, what comes to mind? For most of us, it's the lungs of our planet, right? But it's so much more than that. It's one of Earth's last great frontiers, a place just packed with secrets that we are only now starting to unravel. And today, we're diving into some of its most baffling, unsolved mysteries. First, just try to wrap your head around the sheer size of this place. We're talking about a basin that covers a staggering 7 million square kilometers. To put that in perspective, you could cram 2 whole countries the size of India inside of it, and you'd still have room left over. It's basically a world unto itself. And what's really wild is that, just like our deep oceans, the vast majority of life in there is a total mystery to us. Scientists figure we've only identified about 10% of all the species living in the Amazon. That other 90%, it's a giant, living, breathing question mark. And all that unknown space is the perfect breeding ground for legends, which brings us to our first, and maybe the most famous mystery of all, the epic, centuries-long hunt for a city supposedly made entirely of gold. You see, the legend of El Dorado wasn't just about golden buildings. The story was about a king so incredibly wealthy that every single morning he'd cover his entire body in gold dust, only to wash it all off in a sacred river that evening. That one image drove centuries of obsession. So this whole crazy hunt kicks off in the 16th century when European conquerors arrive and hear these tales. For the next 200 years, countless expeditions plunged into the jungle, finding nothing. Eventually, El Dorado was mostly written off as a myth. But the idea never really died. As recently as 1925, the famous explorer Percy Fawcett went on one last quest to find what he called City Z and was never heard from again. For decades, everyone thought Fawcett was just chasing a ghost. But now, technology is completely rewriting the story. Using LiDAR, which is this amazing tech that can basically see through the jungle canopy, archaeologists have found proof of huge, complex cities with roads and buildings, all swallowed by the forest. Which, of course, leads to the ultimate question. We've actually found lost cities, just not ones dripping with gold. So, could one of these sprawling, ancient metropolises be the real origin of the El Dorado myth? The gold might just be a legend, but the mystery of a lost city? Oh, that's very, very real. Okay, so from an ancient legend, let's move to a human mystery that is still playing out today. Deep inside this jungle, there are people living completely cut off from the outside world. And this brings us to the story of the Piracucara people in western Brazil. That number you see, 15, is roughly what's believed to be left of them. It's a tribe that once had thousands of members, now tragically reduced to just a handful of known survivors. It wasn't until 1998 that anthropologists even made first contact and started to piece together their story. After finally decoding their language, a truly horrifying picture emerged. A massacre at the hands of illegal miners and loggers, with the survivors called the Land Mafia, who wanted their land. The story of the Piracucara is an absolute tragedy, but it also points to a much, much bigger question. Who are these isolated peoples? Could they be the direct descendants of the same civilizations that built those lost cities? Understanding their past is one of the keys to understanding the whole history of people in the Amazon. And to even begin to find a clue, we need to go back in time. And I mean way, way back, to a time when the Amazon wasn't a rainforest at all, but a world shaped by the Ice Age. So get this, in 2017, archaeologists found something absolutely monumental. Hidden away in the Colombian Amazon was an 8-mile-long cliff face. Think of it as a giant canvas, covered in tens of thousands of ancient paintings. And these paintings show a completely different world. They're about 12,000 years old, from the tail end of the last ice age. And the animals they painted, not jaguars and monkeys. They're extinct megafauna. We're talking mastodons, giant sloths, even ice age horses. It's an incredible snapshot of a prehistoric Amazon we never knew existed. All right, from the deep past, let's jump to a very recent and frankly, a very bizarre puzzle. Something that just really shouldn't be possible. In February of 2019, biologists were absolutely baffled to find the body of a 10-ton humpback whale calf, and not on a beach somewhere, but deep inside the mangrove forests of Brazil, far from the open ocean. So the first obvious question is, what was a giant ocean animal doing in the Amazonian jungle in the first place? And then it gets even weirder. It wasn't just near the coast. Its body was found a full 15 kilometers, that's about 9 miles inland. How on earth does a 10-ton creature get that far into a dense forest? And here is the final kicker. This all happened in February. At that time of year, this whale should have been thousands of miles south, feeding in the icy waters near Antarctica. The bottom line is, we have no idea how or why it ended up there. It's a complete and total mystery.
Okay, so let's zoom way in. From a 10-ton whale to a tiny structure that fits on a leaf, but was so strange it baffled scientists and the entire internet.
Back in 2013, a student in Peru stumbled across this, a tiny little silk cone surrounded by this intricate, perfect circular fence. They posted a picture of it online, and nobody, not even the world's top spider experts, had ever seen anything like it. It quickly got the nickname Silkhenge. Well, after a ton of research, the Amazon finally gave up this little secret. It's the work of a totally new species of spider. The female lays one single egg in that middle cone. Then she builds the fence around it, which acts as a trap for tiny dust mites. So when the baby spider hatches, its first meal is literally waiting for it right outside the door. It's an ingenious, prepackaged nursery. The story of Silkhenge is great because it shows some of the Amazon's mysteries can be solved. But it's so important to remember the scale we're dealing with. For every one of these tiny, brilliant spiders we finally identify, for every clue we find, we are still just barely scratching the surface.
So, what you should really take away from all this is the sheer scope of the unknown. We've talked about lost cities, uncontacted tribes, and impossible creatures. But if all of that comes from just the 10% we know about, what other wonders and what other mysteries are still waiting out there, hiding in the other 90%?